On Morning Live, Channel 404, keeping you updated throughout the day.
And of course, we've been talking a lot about the weather of late. You know, we've had some disaster areas declared. And the question that arises is, of course, not just about global warming, but also about drought. And what is a drought?
Yeah, well, Azwi's going to answer that question. He has a guest for this particular weather segment. So let's go over to Azwi now.
Well, thanks very much, Leanne and Sakina. Yes, it is true. We have experienced a whole lot of rainfall recently over South Africa. And, well, it is very confusing to see a whole lot of rainfall, a whole lot of floods, and then come to say we are having droughts in South Africa, and most parts of South Africa have been affected by this. You can see the rain collection that we have received in the past week, or mostly in February. This is what it looks like, and the northern parts has been flooded to some parts of Free State. And looking into the future, we're still expecting some rainfall going to March and April. And to say we have a drought, it is something very difficult to understand and for one to grasp. Now, to define what drought is, well, you would see that it is defined as a period of a long period that persists without rainfall that results into damaged crops and water supply. Now, with water supply, we have seen some of the dams have been filled currently, but the crop damage, that's the issue that we want to find out. And to move further, we have seen that we've talked about crops, and again, we've talked about water supply. So this gives us many definitions. So another one where we do not have enough rainfall, it is called a meteorological drought. And again, we have an agricultural drought where we do not have enough crop yield for that season. And moving further, we have a hydrological drought where we do not have enough in our dams and also flowing in our streams. And again, we also have economical, where the drought affects our economy, where everything goes up like your meat and again some other foods in the present. Now, to explain further to this, we are joined by Deputy Director of Climate Change, Mahlatse Phuthi from Agriculture. Welcome.
Thank you, Azwi.
Now, is it really true that we're currently having a drought in South Africa?
Okay, Azwi, we must remember that in agriculture, rain does not directly translate to improvement of veld immediately, as well as the crop yields. It will depend on the timing of the rain, and especially looking at the 2018-19 summer rainfall season. We have seen the late start of the season. It has been characterized by hot and dry conditions, and only in December and late January to early February we have seen rainfall activities in the northeastern parts. Yes. However, some areas where we are supposed to be planting summer maize, they haven't had rain, especially at the time when planting dates were still favorable. Okay. But in the northeastern parts, as farmers have planted and the crops are in good conditions. However, we still need these rains to sustain these conditions. Okay,
now looking at that, like the areas specifically that have been affected, which areas are those?
Okay, we are looking now at the central parts of the country, especially the maize producing areas. But however, the areas under irrigation, as we know that farmers have planted, although we cannot say much now as the sector because we are still waiting our first production estimates by crop estimates committee, whereby it will be able to tell us in terms of yield projections. But in terms of those areas, as I've indicated, the northeastern parts, the conditions are good for those farmers who have especially planted late, and we are hoping that the rains will continue to sustain the conditions.
Now, looking at the rains that will continue, because we've seen that March and April, we are expecting some rain, or we may say that the rainfall is above normal from the weather service. But though they're saying it is not significant, is it okay for us to put the seed down? Are we going to get a crop yield or a good crop yield from that?
Okay, thank you. As in terms of the last planting days that are still favorable in the northeastern parts, as I've indicated, we are looking at Limpopo, we are looking at Mpumalanga, although KwaZulu-Natal, it will be a problem because it might be that before we get the harvests, we might be affected by early frost. The conditions are still favorable, but unfortunately, we need to look at the coming winter season, which might be affected by the cold conditions.
Okay, now looking at the recent years, like 5 years back, we have seen that our crop yield hasn't been very good. We have seen drought in most of those years. So is this an effect of climate change, or is this just normal, Jay? It is something that we can continue expecting in the coming few years?
Okay, thank you, Azwi. Especially looking at the past seasons, yes, we can say that we have experienced drought from 2015-16 summer season. However, we cannot say in confidence that these conditions are due to climate change, because the normal climate variability can be able to do that. So we are continuing to do studies as the sector to monitor those areas and to ensure that should the conditions change, we are ready to adapt in terms of the favorable varieties that we can plant and animal species that will be able to sustain the conditions.
Okay, now talking about that, and also looking at South Africa being a farming country, and we have lots of farmers looking at Northwest, going to Free State, KwaZulu-Natal, and most provinces. So do you have something that you can, or that they can use from you guys to get advice on the current conditions and also going forward?
Okay, thank you. As the department, we have what we call advisories that they can find on our website that will be able to assist the farmers in terms of what to expect and how to go about adapting to those conditions.
Okay, thanks very much, Phuthi, from Directorate of Climate Change and Disaster from Agriculture.
Okay, thank you, Azwi.
That's it?
Okay.